Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of The Human Side of Marketing. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with your host, as always, Kurt Stockwell. Hello, Kurt.
Chris, how's it going?
Good, man. It's good. I'm interested in today's topic because I think this. Well, first of all, you hooked me with a great title.
Yeah.
Like, there's one word I got to master. I love mastery. I love self-mastery, and
right. This is episode 54. Become a master of this one word.
You couldn't have made it any simpler. It's like one word.
It's one word. So this one word can give you a higher quality of life, Chris.
What? Come on. Now I feel like you're just teasing me.
You can get more done.
Yeah.
You can get more focus.
Ooh, yes.
Are you busy? Are you a busy person?
I mean, yeah.
Okay. So this one word can help you become more successful.
Ooh.
And you're a very genuine person already, but you can be more genuine and more reliable with this one word.
Yeah, I like that. And by the way, before you give the word away,
okay,
I think it's important because, but like if we just dove into the madness I think people are experiencing right now in the world, like let's just look at that for a second. Like, there's a lot of people who, like, you gave me a lot of the positives. I could be more successful. So I think some of the frustration right now is you're distracted.
Mm-hmm.
You're overcommitted.
Mm-hmm.
You're angry, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of things that are happening right now that can point to how you not mastering this word
mm-hmm.
are affecting your life. Like, if you have not mastered this word, you are experiencing the effects of the lack of mastery of this one word.
Right. You're letting the audience know that you actually do know the word.
I actually do know it. I do know the word, of course.
Okay. So the mastery, become a master of this one word, and that word is no. Become a master of the word no. Now, the reason I say that is because we're having actually a pretty good year here at Well Dressed Walrus. We're very blessed. And the busier I get, the more that I realize I have to say no to things. Yep. Because when I say yes to everything, then I am not able to do any one thing really well. And Donald Miller, who wrote StoryBrand, he talked about this a few months back, and it really kind of stuck with me. And I think that as you grow in your business, as you grow in your in becoming more and more successful, there's definitely a point where you have to become a master of knowing what to commit to and what not to commit to.
Right.
Yep. And the word no really is something that we all need to be better at.
Why do you feel like we have a hard time with saying no?
I think most people, definitely not all people, but most people want to please the person in front of them, or want to please the person on the other side of the screen or the phone, whatever. And the more successful you become, or the busier you become in your business, the more people are going to be requesting things of you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have a really clear understanding of your goals on a daily basis, or your goals on a monthly basis, yearly, 5-year, 10-year,
mm-hmm.
Then you start saying yes to things that are diverting you from where you're supposed to be. So I heard this great analogy years ago. And, we're in the Northwest. So if we were driving from Spokane to Phoenix, and if you imagine a map, Spokane to Phoenix is basically all down the western side of the country. Yep. If you don't know where Spokane is. But if you had a friend say, "Oh, hey, I heard you're on a road trip. You should swing by my place on your road trip." And this person lives in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah.
That would completely take you off course in a dramatic way. Mm-hmm. And your goal of getting to Phoenix would be greatly affected. Now, that's a very kind of grandiose example of something that would be ludicrous to do, to go that far out of your way. But when we don't know how to manage our time, specifically knowing what to say yes or no to, it's like getting diverted like that. I mean, there's been times, I'm sure you can think of times even in your own career where you're like, I said yes to something and it completely took me out of my course for months.
I think
weeks,
the part
years.
That's harder, even years. I think the part that's harder in real life versus your Orlando example is that I already have a reference point for where Phoenix is and where Orlando is compared to Spokane. So when you say, yeah, just pop by Orlando, I'm like, no, that's way out of my way. In life, you're going through business and making decisions, and an opportunity comes up and you're like, ooh, opportunity, ooh, shiny object, ooh, something over there, super juicy. And we go pursue it, not knowing that it's Orlando, because we have no point of reference for where we're going and where this other opportunity is taking us. And so that's the part that has you go way off track for so long, because it's hard to get back.
Right. Right. Yeah.
There was years ago, there was a guy that said, first you make the choice and then the choice makes you. First you make the choice and then the choice makes you. Cause you're like, okay, well now I commit, now I'm committed. And so depending on how big that commitment is, it can be really hard to undo that commitment.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think another way to look at that too is if you, at the end of the day, at the end of the week, you're constantly looking at your day or your week or your month or your year and going, man, I'm not getting anything done.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
How many times did you say yes to something that you should have said no to? One of the things that I said, kind of my last point here, is being more genuine and more reliable, right? If you're saying yes to too many things, then you're likely not giving the attention you need to your business, probably mostly to your family.
Yeah.
You know, that's a very human thing, is the human side of marketing here. The thing that's most important to me is my family. I've got pictures of my kids and my wife and stuff behind me. And when I start to get distracted in my goals in business, then I become more scattered and in my home life too, because I'm trying to chase things. Right. And and when you say no to the person who really wants you to say yes, you're saying yes to somebody else. Essentially, you're saying yes to your family, yes to your employees, yes to your bottom line, yes to your future, right?
Yeah.
Maybe yes to retiring at the age that you want to retire, you know?
I think we get in this, you last episode, you talked about the dopamine hit. And I think there's something about being busy that gives us a sense of, or an identity of, I'm being productive.
Yeah.
And I've done both sides. I've worked, and what happens in that energy of things, in that space of things, is you will start to use hours, because you run out of, like, that's all you have is hours now, because you keep committing to more things. So you have to keep extending the hours you work in order to get all of it done. And what ends up happening, you see this with people who work really long hours in businesses, they end up stealing that time from their family. Just like you said, it's right. You're saying yes to this, so it means you're saying no to your family.
Yeah.
But I've done the other side, where you go, okay, I'm going to say no to all this extra business stuff. And I'm going to, and in the space of saying no to a lot of things, there's this very uncomfortable space or margin. Like, you've got all this like open space in your head, and it's very hard to not try to keep filling it with stuff.
Right. Right.
And
that's
so,
a great point. Yeah.
You had mentioned something about reading. I remember years ago, I was like, I used to read a ton, and then I was like, I'm not going to read hardly anything this year. And it was really weird. It was a shift, because I was trying to create space in my head instead of trying to fill it.
Yeah.
And I could hear those voices in my head, like, you should be doing more. You should be doing something right now. Why are you just sitting here? Like, it's
right. Yeah. If you know the Enneagram, I don't think you and I have discussed the Enneagram much, but I've kind of become a student.
I think I'm a 4, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I think you definitely.
Can you see that?
A 4. Yeah. I think you're probably a 4 with a 3 wing.
People have said 3s and 8s, but I think I'm a 4.
Yeah, I think you're a 4 with a 3 wing for sure. That's a total another topic.
We'll come back for another episode on that.
Which I do want to do an episode one time about how to send marketing messages to every different Enneagram type.
Oh, nice.
Everybody's motivated by different things, but that's another topic. Maybe that'll be next time.
Way to wet the whistle.
Episode 55, maybe. But the thing about a lot of business owners are 3s and 8s, right? And we're very driven to succeed. And it's specifically what you're talking about with reading is, I mentioned kind of before we started recording, that one of the things I had to say no to on the vacation that I just went on was reading business books while I'm sitting on the beach trying to relax.
Yeah.
And I enjoy reading business books, but I read 2 mystery novels, you know?
Right.
And it was kind of fun just to turn my brain off, you know? Yeah. Because I enjoy learning about business, but there's aspects of it where you just kind of have to chill. Right. And I slept really well. I was very relaxed. And I've had other you know, trips to the beach where I've tried to disconnect from business. I'm reading business books, and the only thing I'm doing is thinking about business in the whole time. And so there's some things you in your own life you have
Yeah.
to say no to, right?
Yeah.
I need to
That's a
say
good
no to
point.
ice cream a little bit more, but yeah.
It's a good point. Because it's so easy to think about saying no to external things or other people, but there's a lot of times, like you're saying, where there are places to say no to yourself.
Yeah.
That's self mastery. Like that's a whole other level of
Yeah.
mastery.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's why I called the episode "Become a Master of This Word." You know,
Yeah.
I've heard it also said that, you know, the power of saying no, or
Yeah.
the word that successful people know. But there's definitely times where you're going to say no to maybe something you should have said yes to.
Sure.
But that's like, you know, with any sort of learning and growing, you're going to probably do it wrong. So, you know, this another thing too is, I think that as a business leader, as somebody who owns a business, you being able to do this is going to allow you to be more reliable to your team, and it's going to allow you to help your team through this.
Right.
Just the other day, I was working with one of my employees, and he, you know, said, "Hey, we got this request from this client. You know, I don't have time to do it. Should I tell her to have the client tell her to talk to you?" And I was like, "No, just tell her we don't have time right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay."
Right.
You know, and
Yeah.
would it be okay if you talk to her in, you know, a week or so?
Mm-hmm.
And so he reached out and said, "Hey, we're really busy right now. Is it okay if we talk about this in a week or so?" And she's like, "Absolutely, no problem." But I had to say no to him,
Right.
you know, so he could learn how to kind of craft a message back to the client to say, "Hey, we're busy. Is it okay if we pick this up in a week or so?"
Right.
You know, and so anyway.
I think there's a lot of I mean, it's always this way with me. It's like you always got to look underneath the thing, like underneath the word, and underneath your resistance to saying no, underneath your compulsion to always say yes. There's something happening about you. There is an identity attached to being busy. There is a fear of being rejected because you said no. Like there's something under the surface that is preventing us. And that's why I love business, because business to me is like the ultimate personal development program. Like you being in business is like
Yeah.
the opportunity to take yourself on in so many ways. And I think this thing about no is like the ultimate game of mastery.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You're so right. I mean, running a business, owning a business, trying to do some sort of a hustle to you know,
Yeah.
to shift out of this career that you don't like into
Yeah.
something new, man, it will kick you in the teeth more
Yeah.
times than you want. And
Yep.
yeah, there's definitely an aspect of being validated
Yeah.
by people wanting something from you,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and again, the busier you get, the more successful you become in this
Yeah.
journey. If somebody's on, I guess the thing I would say it is somebody who's on their initial steps of this journey into this new career or this business, is learn how to say no, learn how to master this word now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you will be more successful, you know,
Right.
down the road. Because when you become more successful, more people want your time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. 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 Definitely. The busier, the more successful you get, the more you have to say no to things. So like you said, start mastering it now, because it's easier now than it will be when your business
Yeah.
starts to get really, really successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And being okay with people being like, "Oh, Kurt's kind of a jerk. He said no to speaking at this thing, or he said no to doing this thing, or he said no to volunteering at this thing."
Right.
You know, I actually just said no to volunteering at something. Our church is working on some construction project, and I normally so I think I'm actually a Enneagram 3 with a 2 wing. This is just a revelation I had the other day. I like to help, and 2s like to help, right?
Yeah.
And so, and find validation in helping. But I had to say no because, you know, I had some family visiting, and I knew that I would be distracted from time with them to help out, you know, with this church project. And knowing that the guy that I was talking to was kind of running the project at church, he didn't have any other options. He's like, "Oh man, I don't know who I'm going to call." I'm like, "Sorry," you know?
Right. Right. Yeah.
And I felt bad,
Yeah.
but you know, I'm spending time with my parents who were in their late 70s, and you know, that's kind of one of those things, like, you don't know when you're going to personal stuff.
Yeah.
You don't know when you're going to get the call like, hey,
Yeah.
mom's in the hospital, dad's in the whatever. So you got to take these moments. And I have little kids too. And so,
Right.
yeah, anyway.
I remember years ago, I feel like I've referenced a billionaire before. So this guy's a billionaire, and he said, focus can occur as rude. You being focused can come off as being rude. So like when somebody's like, hey, can you do this for me? You're like, no. Hey, can you do this for me? You're like, no. And so what happens is people just start feeling like, dude, why are you being such a jerk? You didn't used to do that. Now you're just being a jerk all the time. You're like, it's not being a jerk. It's that I'm focused. And
Right.
because you're not focused or you don't have another alternative doesn't make it my fault. I have a direction I'm headed finally. And so I know what to say yes to and what to say no to. But
right.
That's what I think of when you say that, because you're like, sorry, and it could come off as being rude. And I think sometimes that thing under the surface is we're afraid to be rude. We're afraid to offend. We're like, oh God, did I offend you? Then let me change my life so that you don't feel offended.
Right. But what's the kind of the other side of the coin there is you're likely saying, when you're saying yes to that person because you don't want to offend,
right,
somebody closer to you, probably more important to you,
I know,
is being affected.
Yeah.
You know,
so weird. Like I don't feel like I'm afraid to offend my wife when I say yes to somebody I don't even know asking for a favor. I don't go, oh, but my wife will be offended, or I just go, oh, sure. And then the ones closer to me have to suffer the absence. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So weird. I think one of the, if I transition this a little bit, I would say, in marketing and business, there are a lot of, options. Mm-hmm. When it comes to how we market our business. There's a lot of things we could put on our websites. There's a lot of things we could try to say to the world about what we do. And even that process, there is a saying no to the 10 things we do so that we can focus on the one thing we do the best.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think that's what your playbook and your marketing conversations with people help them figure out is like, what of all the things you do, what do we need to say no to so that we can really say yes and focus our resources in on this thing? Because this is the one that is the strongest for positioning your brand and your products, et cetera.
Yeah, that's I love this conversation when I get to have them with business owners, because inevitably, when we go through the process of trying to clarify messaging for a business or organization, we ask, well, what problem do you solve? Tell us about your products or your services? And, we try to boil it down to what's the one main problem you solve? Well, we solve like 7 different problems.
Yeah.
Well, what product, your one product does all 7 of those? No. We have 7 different products.
Right.
And so it's really hard to market all of those at once. Right.
Yeah. Right.
And so when you do that, you get a really muddy message. So my question to them is always, well, which one is the biggest revenue generator? And usually 9 times out of 10, it's like, oh, it's this one single product, hands down. Okay, let's talk about that one. And we're not necessarily saying no to these other ones, but we are saying no to confusing people about those other 6 products. Right. Until they walk in the door, they understand what problem you solve for them. They understand that you have empathy. They understand that you have authority. And then you can say, and oh, look at these other things that we do. Right. Totally. So that's definitely a conversation. Good segue into marketing.
Yeah, it's super important. Like I feel like so many of my years in business was spent trying to chase all the rabbits, juggle all the balls. Like I had a really hard time in marketing and growing my business, saying no to things. I was overcommitted in so many different ways to grow my business that I couldn't go all in on any one. And so my message was diluted.
That's the curse of being an idea guy. And a lot of, us business owners, like I said, the 3s and the 8s and the 4s are idea people, right? Yeah. And vision casting people and trying to stay focused on that one thing, that one main message is hard. But when you don't do that, you confuse people. Right. So that's what we help people do. We help people.
Well, if people want to learn more about that process, Kurt, so that they can learn to say yes to the things that actually matter and produce the results, how do they reach you?
They can reach me at clarifymymarketing.com or wdwalrus.com is our website address. On social media, you can find us at wdwalrus.
Nice.
And if you go to clarifymymarketing.com, there's a opportunity there to just kind of schedule a phone call. We'll just have a conversation about where you're feeling stuck.
Nice.
And
Love
how
it.
to, maybe we can also have a conversation about mastering the word no.
Yeah, right. I love it. So good. Well, thanks for your time again, Kurt. And until next time, take care.
Hey, thanks, Chris.